Good afternoon and welcome to the Community Connection Corner here on your Catholic station, Real Life Radio 1380 and 94.9 FM. I'm Jennifer Longworth, joined today by Marcie Timmerman, Communications Director, also known as the Click Send Enthusiast of NAMI Lexington. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Now, tell us what NAMI stands for, first of all, because I know people get that mixed up.
It's the National Alliance on Mental Illness, and it is a 3-tier organization. We are a local chapter. There's a state one, NAMI, Kentucky, and then there's also a national, NAMI.org.
NAMI.org. So that's, basically where people can find out if they just want to go and click.
Yep.
It's NAMI.org, and that's the gist of it. But so what do? We just hang out with our friends who all have problems, or what is NAMI about?
We support, educate, and advocate for family members, caregivers, and individuals with mental illness. So basically anyone impacted by mental illness.
So you don't have to be the actual...
The word we use is consumer.
So you don't have to be the actual consumer to take advantage of your services.
Correct. Yep.
And how did you come upon the term consumer? Just because it's got a little less stigma than...
Yeah, it's a nationally used word. We don't love it, but it's a lot shorter than individual with mental illness. And
True.
we really want to talk about people first. The illness does not necessarily define their entire being by any means. So that's really part of our language. Until we find a better word for consumer, that's what we do. They consume mental health services. So.
Oh, okay. Oh, that works. And you guys aren't psychologists and psychiatrists. That's not your role. You're not diagnosing. You're not prescribing.
Nope.
You're a support and education system.
Correct. We are people who are family members or are people with mental illness. Sometimes that's the same person, has both roles. But we are those people sharing our expertise, our knowledge, knowledge of the system as a whole, which a lot of those providers or little pieces don't know what the other's doing or how to work with the other. Right. So we are that kind of bridge as well, because we've walked the walk and we've been there. And so you're learning from people like us, but all the information that we share is double checked, with the appropriate professional. So it's not just kind of, oh, well, I heard this.
Right.
So,
right.
It's double checked medical information, or if it's system related, we've gotten it from the provider or wherever it's necessary.
And mental illness just covers a wide spectrum of behaviors and mindsets and you name it. It's not just one thing. And that there's the stigma on it, and it's still like, well, exactly why? Because this person with a mental illness is not going to have the same reaction, lifestyle, anything like this other person. So do you guys kind of help the broad spectrum then?
Yes, we help with the whole spectrum. Largely we focus on severe and persistent mental illness, and those are the folks who have, often you'll hear the words schizophrenia, major depressive disorder, anxiety disorders. Bipolar is a major one. So those folks that have it kind of a large impact on their life. This is not someone who is typically better in a couple of months of just some talk therapy. Now, that's not to say that that's not important and that those people don't have resources with us. It is, but a lot of our programming is built for more the longer term impacted folks.
Now, one of the common questions is kind of what causes mental illness?
We really don't know the real cause of mental illness, but it is a lot of factors. There's definitely a biological component to mental illness, especially the severe and persistent. There are images now we have of brains that show that there's actually a change in someone's brain related to stress chemicals or other kinds of chemicals being off balance. So it's physical, as well as it can be triggered by stress or traumatic events. In some cases, that might be what the person actually sees as shaping the mental illness. But whether it is or not, there's still a lot of question marks around our entire field.
And genetics can play a part in it too, right?
Definitely. There's definitely some hereditary markers that have been identified. Now, can you go get tested for them? No, because they mean other things. It's all in conjunction with each other, and we're not that far yet. But yeah, there's definitely some hereditary and other factors. So
it's kind of difficult to wade through it all.
Yeah,
sometimes
it is.
Well, let me tell you how neurotic I was at one point. I know about mental illness because I felt the need to read the big, thick manual when I was bored. Not the whole thing, the DSM, whatever. Yeah, just because, I'm going to pick it up from time to time and, hey, let's see which one I have, right? Self-diagnosis, looking, if you feel a little off, let's just figure it out. Or you're feeling, I don't know, a little bit of a, 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 I don't know, a little bit or maybe know someone, you go on WebMD or, a website. But I'm guessing you guys probably wouldn't recommend that tactic of diagnosis.
Probably not. It's kind of an amusing party game, but it's not a good idea for diagnosis. The DSM-5 is the new version. It was 4 until last year. So, but yeah, no, there's a lot of different things, and a lot of the mental illnesses actually flow together on a continuum. Bipolar can look like anxiety disorder or major depressive disorder at a certain time in your life. Schizophrenia can mimic those things as well. So you really need to talk to a professional to get a diagnosis. And we're just here to help with all the symptoms and the lifestyle and the communication challenges that come with working with someone who's in psychosis or dealing with an issue like this.
So how do you help people? You have different programs, you come alongside of them. What happens?
Well, a lot of folks come to us as caregivers or family members when someone is admitted to the hospital in a situation of crisis. That's too often the time when they intersect with us, and we would love to see them before that, because we can help kind of prevent crisis. But a lot of times those folks call the office. They're really confused. They don't know what's going on with their loved one. They need to talk to someone, and we've got someone who's been there, who's had multiple hospitalizations of their family members, so they can kind of understand the process and the frustration and the stigma related to it. I mean, you mentioned that earlier. There's a lot of people, you can't just go into church and say, hey, they were admitted to Eastern State yet. We're working on that, but we're not there yet. And, like you can with a heart attack, you can go, oh, everybody please pray. But, a lot of people feel ashamed to say that. Now, we want them to not be ashamed, but they do feel ashamed. And so they can talk to us openly, freely. We've been there. We've done it. And we get them into an education course, either our family-to-family class, or if they just need some short-term help, we find them that. We get them resources on their loved one's diagnosis if they have that. If they don't have that, a lot of times we can help them deal with what they've been seeing anyway. So, there's a lot of that. And then folks with mental illness often come to us after discharge. They've been asked to come to our participation station, which is a peer-operated center. Folks come in for absolutely free. They can have a cup of coffee. They can just hang out with other people who have mental illness at varying degrees and varying points in their recovery system. And really the power of that is, A, ending the isolation that comes with mental illness. So often people are afraid to go out in public. And then B, it's really, you see someone who's doing well, who has the same diagnosis as you. So you realize that you don't have to be in this dark, bad place all the time. You can get better. And just knowing that that's possible is so powerful, because then you can start actively participating in your own care. And we teach them how to do that. There we have classes on everything from, how to know how to take a shower every day and create a plan for yourself, to go build up to, taking math classes and running a cash register and applying for jobs and things like that. So, because
there are a lot of barriers that come up when, what you just said sounds like you're putting the stigma upon yourself, saying, I know I have this situation in my life and this condition or whatever, therefore people won't like me, or people will think ill of me, or people will think I'm weird and nobody else has ever gone through this, and and kind of bringing this stuff upon yourself,
that we call that self-stigma, and it's a lot of times it comes from the community around you. You've not known anyone who's told you they had bipolar that is functioning. You don't know anyone who has schizophrenia, who's hearing voices, who's actually working. And we have a lot of people in this city even who are doing that. So it's kind of interesting. So
hope is not all lost.
No, and really that's one of our main messages is there is hope for everyone, for the family member, for the caregiver, for the community that's supporting this person. I mean, it's not just them, but everybody has hope.
And the education is key in that. For people to understand what's really going on. Just because they say they are hearing voices or are on a manic phase or whatever, what exactly does that mean? And more understanding for the people around. And
and what we are able to do is kind of tell them, hey, this is the illness. This is not necessarily a personality trait. Now, sometimes it can be. But, a lot of times you'll find that goes away when someone is in treatment. So say someone is, I hate you, I hate you, don't leave me kind of complex comes with one of the personality disorders. And you kind of have to know what those signs are that the person's not doing as well as they used to be. Maybe they're not just being mean. So just for a shady example there. But
you got to have examples, because mental illness isn't something you can see or touch necessarily.
Exactly.
You have to, see someone in it or be in it yourself, or, be affected by it to to understand it more. Because you can read lots of books and go to lots of classes, but until you experience it or
with somebody who's like that or had a family member, or come to Eastern State as a volunteer,
Very good. We'll talk about that more in the next segment, how we can get involved. But you guys are also advocates out there as well, right? Standing up for folks.
We actually work closely with all the providers locally, just to kind of give them the family voice and family perspective. So if someone's actively shutting out a family member or something like that, a lot of times they'll call us and ask us, what can I do about this? How do I advocate for myself and for my loved one? We are also out there to change the laws. There are a lot of laws regarding mental illness. It's been heavily regulated pretty much its entire existence in our country. But
like what?
In the 1950s, we did deinstitutionalization. So they sent people out of the hospitals, out of the mental hospitals, and sent them to the community because there were now drugs that allowed them to live in the community, which is great. We love that. But our community mental health centers were set up at the federal level, and that's what bluegrass.org here is. So it used to be Bluegrass Mental Health Mental Retardation Board. They're now bluegrass.org or CompCare. Yeah, or CompCare. They are our community mental health center here in Fayette County. And there are 14 of those in the state of Kentucky. Those are all regulated at the federal and state levels. So there's a lot of law involved as far as that goes. And then when you look at someone who may not know they're ill or maybe too ill to realize that they need hospitalization, you've got that involuntary commitment process, which removes their personal rights. So, of course, there's a major law system of that, and there needs to be to protect their rights. You don't want just anyone getting committed to a hospital because they disagreed with someone. So, but we are working on kind of, actually here in Fayette County, we've been advocating for a mental health court. Our jails have become our mental health hospital, unfortunately, in this country because of some of those commitment issues, but also just because our mentally ill aren't necessarily coming into the community outpatient centers the way they should be. So we're working on identifying when a misdemeanor crime, not a sex crime, not a felony, but when a misdemeanor is done because someone has a mental illness. So say they're homeless and they're breaking in some place and they're homeless because they're hearing voices and they don't want to be in a home. Somewhere closed in spaces. There's some kind of fear or phobia with that. They break in somewhere to get warm in the middle of winter and they get arrested for trespassing.
Right.
That person needs treatment for his schizophrenia and for his fear of places and things like that instead of jail. Jail's not going to fix his problem. So we are trying to create a nice place where they actually get treatment instead of going to jail. So a situation where we provide them with the social supports they need to succeed and to really fix the problem into the society. They're not a danger necessarily to anyone but themselves. So that's one of our ways that we advocate. Yeah.
And then you got the insurance companies that are kind of fighting against you.
The MCOs are used to hearing from us. So
I'm sure, because a lot of the times we'll give you 3 days of treatment, but then you're out, even though this person might need 3 months or beyond.
Right.
How do you guys have any answers?
Kelly Gunning, our advocacy director, is involved at the state level on all those Medicaid discussions that she can be. So pretty much anything that discusses mental illness and Medicaid system right now, she's there. Okay. She's advocating for, wider rules for parity, which is equalness with your regular physical health. There's a federal law that states mental health parity must be seen in every plan, but that's not the reality yet on the ground anywhere, not just in Kentucky. But we're working on that. Like, you don't give someone with a heart attack 4 days to get better. You give them however long it takes. And it should be the same with mental illness, because mental illness is the same. It's biological. It's very complicated, but it's very biological in basis. So,
well, when we come back from the break, we're going to talk more about NAMI and how folks can get involved in it and what you can do to help folks.
Cool. Thank you.
All right. This is your Community Connection Corner here on your Catholic station, Real Life Radio 1380 and 94.9 FM WMJR, Nicholasville, Lexington.